Chapter 3. Last part. Please meet Jalal once again, please, and Mama was pleading to Salah over the phone. Salah was irritated by her request. And Mama, he does not want to marry you, he said this so many times. Why can't you understand that there's no point in talking to him again? He said his parents wanted him to get engaged. He's lying, and Mama intervened, just so that I shouldn't contact him again. His parents can't fix him up so soon. Well then, if he doesn't want to marry you, doesn't want you to contact him, then why are you wasting yourself on him? Because it is my fate to be wasted, she was crying. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, you won't understand. Just go and tell him to help me. He holds Hazrat Muhammad, pbuh, in such high esteem, tell him to marry me for the Prophet's, pbuh, sake, she broke into sobs. Salah was unmoved by her tears. What logic is this? Will he marry you for saying this? But Mama did not reply, she was weeping uncontrollably. Exasperated, Salah said either cry or talk to me. Mama hung up. Salah called back at once, but she did not receive the call. After about 20 minutes, Mama called again. I'll talk to you if you promise not to cry again, otherwise hang up, he said when he heard her voice. Instead of replying, Mama asked, then you'll go to Lahore? Salah was amazed by her determination, she was tough and she stuck to her stand. All right, if you say so, he conceded. Have you told your family about the nikah? No, not yet, she had regained her composure. When will you tell them? I don't know. When will you go to Lahore? Soon enough. I have some work here where I could have left immediately. This time Salah was lying, he had no work as such and he did not intend to go to Lahore either. What do you plan to do once the bailiff helps you leave your house? I mean, where will you go, since Jalal may not be willing to help you? He tried to distract her attention. I'm not assuming any such thing, he will help me, Mama asserted. Jalal shrugged. You're not ready to make any assumptions, otherwise I'd have told you. That things won't turn out the way you want them to. What will you do then? You'll again need your parents' help, so it's better for you to stay put. Don't get into the court and bailiff tangle because ultimately you'll come back here. I'll never come back, under no circumstances. That's being emotional, he observed. You can't understand these things, and Mama repeated her pet phrase. Salah was cheesed off. Do what you please, he said and hung up. About 6 months ago. Yumra Ahmed official. Your nikah with Ashad and the Rukhsati will take place tomorrow evening. Hashim Mubin came to Mama's room that night and announced gruffly. Baba, I will refuse. It's better that you do not force me into this marriage. If you refuse, I'll shoot you on the spot. Keep that in mind. She looked up at him. I have been married, Baba, she announced. This is the reason for my refusal. Hashim Mubin's expression changed. You're lying. I'm not lying, I got married 6 months ago. Who did you marry? I can't disclose that. Hashim Mubin had never imagined that this child would be the cause of such misery. In a fit of rage, he sprang upon Mama and began to hit her. Left and right. She tried to cover her face with her hands, but to no avail. The noise from the room drew in Wasim, who got hold of his father and pulled him away from Mama. She stood against the wall, weeping. Baba, what are you doing? This matter can be resolved peacefully. The other family members followed Wasim into the room. She has married someone. Hashim Mubin was in a state of anger and despair. Wasim did not accept that. Baba, she's lying, how could she have done this when she hasn't been out of the house even once? She got married 6 months ago. Mama did not look up. Wasim could not believe she'd do such a thing, he knew too well. Mama looked at him with blurred eyes and quietly said, It's true, I am married. What's the proof? Do you have the nikah papers? He asked roughly. Not here, they're with my things in Lahore. Baba, I'm going to Lahore tomorrow to get her stuff. We'll see then, he declared. And Mama regretted having said that. What could they find among her things? Even if you are married, it makes no difference. I will get you divorced and then marry you off to a shad. Hashim Mubin spoke with finality. His face was red with fury as he walked out of her room. Gradually, all the others left too. She sat down on her bed. She knew now what a trapped bird must feel. It was a coincidence that they did not send her a copy of the Nikahnaama. Even if she had it, she could not have shown it to her father as Salah's name was on it. It would be child's play for Hashim Mubin to get to Salah and get rid of him. On the other hand, if they did not find the Nikah papers in her belongings, then no one would believe her statement. And Mama locked the door and called up Salah. She told him everything. Go to Lahore once more and tell Jalal about me. I cannot live here any longer. I have to get out of here and there's nowhere else I can go but to him. Hire a lawyer for me and tell him to file a case against my parents on my husband's behalf for unlawful confinement. You husband? Meaning on my behalf? Don't give the lawyer your name. In fact, it's better if one of your friends hired a lawyer and filed the appeal. You can ask them to use any fictitious name. If my parents get to know about you, they'll get you, and I don't want that to happen. And Mama did not reveal the extent of her fears to Salah, and he didn't try to probe. The next day, around 11 a.m. a lawyer called up Hashim Mubin and spoke to him about Imama. The lawyer also informed him about the case being filed against him by Imama's husband. Hashim Mubin needed no further proof. Erupting with rage, he stormed into Imama's room and beat her up badly. You'll see how you are destroyed, Imama, you'll be deprived of everything. Girls like you who gamble away their parents' honor and dignity deserve to be treated so. You have dared to take us to court when we've done so much for you. You have been thankless. Daughters like you should indeed be buried as soon as they are born. Imama endured the beating quietly. She could understand the state of her father's feelings, but she could not explain her own emotions and thoughts to him. You have left us without a shred of honor. We cannot face anyone. You have literally buried us alive. Salma had followed her husband into the room but made no attempt to stop him. You have destroyed our confidence, her father continued. I wish you were not my daughter, not born in our family, or that you had died at birth, or that I had killed you with my own hands. Today, Imama did not weep at his words or at his beating. She just took the blows and accusations without a word. Hashim Mubin, exhausted, stopped hitting her. He was breathing heavily. Imama stood silent before him. You still have time. Leave everything behind. Divorce the man and marry a shad. We'll forgive you everything. Forget it all. This was Salma speaking firmly. I did not accept Islam to revert to the old ways. I will not return to your faith, Imama spoke softly but with determination. Just set me free. Let me leave this house. If you leave this house, the world will kick you around. You have no idea of the world outside. People are waiting like crocodiles to swallow you up. The man you have married and insulted us will make your life miserable. He must have married you for our money and status, but when you are turned out with nothing to your name, he'll ditch you. You will have no refuge, no shelter. Salma tried to frighten Imama by painting a grim picture. There's time yet, Imama, you still have time. No, Ami, I have no more time. I have made up my mind. I have told you my decision. I cannot accept this life. Please let me go. If you want to cast me out from the family, do so. If you want to disinherit me, do so. I have no objections. But I will do what I have said. I have chosen a path for my life and neither you nor anyone else can change my decision. If that's the case, then just dare step out of this house. I'll kill you, but I will not let you leave this house. As for that lawyer, I'll take good care of him too. If you think that any court can take you away from my custody, you are grossly mistaken. I will never let you go anywhere. I'll move you before the bailiff gets here. I'll see how you do not change your decision then. And if I do not find the man you have married, I will marry you to a shad, regardless of whether or not your nikah has taken place. I refuse to accept this nikah. Your wedding will only be by my wishes or not at all. Saying this in a state of agitation and anger, he walked out with Salma. Imama stood silent, confused and frightened, staring at the door. The very purpose for which she had married was now disintegrating before her. She had gained nothing from it. Hashim Mubin was like a rock in his determination. "Poor Mama Bibi," exclaimed Nasira as she cleaned Salah's room. Salah was organizing the papers, etc. on his writing table. He turned around to look at her. "She got a really bad beating last night," added Nasira, noticing his attention. "Who got a beating?" Salah asked, arranging his books. "And Mama Bibi, who else?" Salah stopped to look at Nasira. She continued that her daughter had informed her that Hashim Mubin had been very violent with Imama. Salah appeared amused. "Really? Very nice." Nasira couldn't fathom his remarks, which were in English. Salah inquired about the reason behind this episode. The maid was surprised by his reaction and his sardonic smile. She did not expect this reaction. According to her understanding of the relationship between them, Salah should have been saddened, but the situation was quite the opposite. If poor Mama Bibi found out that Salah Saab was smiling at her plight, she'll die of shock, she thought. Why else would her father be so furious, she said aloud. She refused to marry Ashad Saab because she wanted to marry another boy. Nasira stressed on the last word and looked meaningfully at Salah. "That's all?" he remarked casually. "It's not an ordinary thing, sir. Their household is in an upheaval. The wedding dates have been fixed, invitations sent out, and now Imama Bibi is refusing stubbornly, so her father beat her up." "That's no reason for such punishment," he commented. "You may think so, but for them it is a very serious matter. I feel very sorry for Imama Bibi, such a nice, polite girl, and now she's in such a mess. Hashim Saab has locked her up at home. My daughter tells me that she's in poor shape." Nasira went on about Imama's sad condition in the hope that, believing her to be a sympathizer, Salah may reveal some secret. But he was no one's fool, and nor was he interested in Nasira's so-called sympathy. He was not concerned about Imama's hardships and punishments, but he did find it amusing that in this day and age, there were people who would raise their hand against grown-up offspring for defying them, and that two people of Hashim Mubin's status, rich, affluent. It was a revelation. Many conflicting thoughts crossed his mind. Nasira went on talking as she went about her work, but Salah took no notice of her words, so she finally quietened down, rather disappointed. She had never seen such indifference between lovers. His reaction is so peculiar, no distress, no anxiety, even after listening to all that Imama has gone through. Perhaps she may also feel amused if he were to suffer a similar fate, Nasira wondered as she dusted a picture and put it back on the shelf. The decision to leave home was the most difficult and most painful decision of Imama's life, but she had no choice. She had no clue as to where her father would take her, or how he would dissolve her marriage to get her married to Ashad. All she knew was the reality that once Hashim Mubin took her away somewhere else, she had no way out. He would never kill her, but she preferred death to the kind of life she knew would be her fate if she stayed on. When her father left the room, Imama wept for a long time. Then, for the first time, she took stock of her life, her situation. She had to get out of the house before morning and find herself a safe place. Safe place? The question arose in her mind, and she thought of Jalal Ansar again. To her, he was the only one who could give her that security in the real sense of the word. Perhaps, if he sees me in person, he may change his mind, his attitude. Perhaps, he'll be compelled to review his decision and give me support and protection. Perhaps his parents will have pity on me. A faint hope arose in her heart. Even if his parents did not help them, at least she would be free to live her life the way she wanted to. But the question is, how am I going to get out of here and where will I go? She was agitated, and then she thought of Salah. If she could reach his house in some way, he could help her out. She called Salah on his mobile. It was switched off. She tried several times but couldn't get through. She put down her mobile, and she put some clothes and other things in a bag. She had some jewelry and some money, which she also put in the bag. Then she collected all her other valuables, which she could easily carry, and which could fetch her ready cash. Finally, she shut her bag, changed her clothes, and prayed Tun Waffle. Her heart was heavy and her whole being was engulfed in sadness and despair. Even her tears did not provide her relief. After offering the waffle, she recited all the ayat and surahs she could remember. Mama took the bag, switched off the light and tiptoed out of her room. Except for one light in the lounge, all the lights were off and it was quite dark. She cautiously descended the stairs to the ground floor and made for the kitchen, where it was pitch dark. Feeling her way in the kitchen, she got to its door which opened onto the lawn where, at the rear end, some vegetables were grown. The kitchen door was the only exit that was not locked, but just bolted. The door was not locked that night also. She quietly opened it and exited. At some distance were the servants' quarters. Very cautiously, she walked across the lawn to the boundary wall separating her house from Salah's. She quietly tossed her bag over the wall and, after some effort, managed to scale the wall and get to the other side. The sound of a knock entered the subconscious of Salah, who was in deep sleep. This turned into a tapping, intermittent but persistent. He was lying prone, fast asleep, but the sound awakened him. He sat up in bed and, in the darkness, tried to look around. A shiver of fright raced through him. The faint tapping sound was coming from the windows. Perhaps someone was trying to open them. Salah's first reaction was that it may be a burglar trying to get in because these were just sliding windows and, unfortunately, there was no grill. But it was not felt necessary to provide an iron grill because the glass was high quality, imported, and could not be easily broken and, further, the windows could only be opened from the inside. Besides, the lawn surrounding the house was patrolled by 3 guards and dogs. But, in spite of these precautions, there was somebody in the small veranda on the other side of the window trying to open it. Salah got up and moved silently towards the opposite end of the window. He lifted the curtain carefully and peeked out. He was shocked to see the figure standing outside, visible in the light of the garden lamps. "She's crazy," he said involuntarily. If their ferocious pedigreed dogs had seen her, they would rip her apart even before Salah or anyone else got to her, and if the guards saw someone moving suspiciously, they would shoot instead of wasting time questioning the suspect. But she stood there safely. Certainly, she had jumped over the wall, Salah thought. Teeth clenched, Salah switched on the bedroom light. The knocking stopped. The dogs had started barking. He drew the curtain and slid the window open. "Come in quickly," he told Mama. She entered somewhat nervously, bag in hand. Salah closed the curtains and turned to her. "For God's sake, Mama, you're insane." Saying nothing, she put the bag at her feet. "You crossed over the wall? If the dogs or the guards had seen you, you'd have been history. Your body would be lying out there. I called so many times, but your mobile was switched off. I had no choice." For the first time, Salah observed her face. Her eyes were swollen and her face drawn. She was wrapped in a wide, white chadar which, along with her clothes, had stains on it. "Can you give me a ride to Lahore?" she asked him. At this hour, Salah was taken aback. "Yes, right now, I have no time." Salah looked at the wall clock in surprise. "The lawyer had called at your house. Didn't that solve your problem?" Mama shook her head. "No, they're planning to send me away somewhere. That's why I was calling you so desperately to tell the lawyer to get a bailiff and secure my release. It could not wait till the next day as they would have moved me to some unknown place." Salah yawned. He was sleepy. "Sit down," he said as she was still standing. "If you can't take me to Lahore, then drop me off at the bus stand. I'll make my way to Lahore." He was about to tell her that they would leave in the morning, but she interrupted him. "No, not in the morning. I want to get out of here before that. If I can't catch the bus to Lahore, I'll go to some other town and take the Lahore bus from there." "At least sit down," Salah gestured. She hesitated, then took a seat on the sofa. Salah sat at the foot of the bed, facing her. "Where will you go in Lahore?" "To Jalal's." "But he has refused to marry you." "I'll go all the same. He loves me, he can't leave me in the lurch, and ditch me this way." I'll request him and his family. I know they'll listen to me, they'll understand my situation. But you are now married to me. Shocked, Imama looked at him. But that's only a paper marriage. I made it clear that the nikah was only out of necessity, it's not a real marriage. He gave her an unblinking look. Do you know that I've been to Lahore today to meet Jalal? Color paled from Imama's face. Did you tell him about my problem, my circumstances? No, Salah shook his head. Why not? Jalal got married, he spoke casually. Imama's breath caught in her throat as she stared at him. It's been 3 days now, he continued. He's going to the northern areas with his bride in a couple of days. He told me all this even before I could say anything, perhaps because he didn't want to hear any more about you. His wife is a doctor too, Salah paused. I think his family rushed through the wedding because of your relationship with him, Salah went on, lying effortlessly. I cannot believe this, her voice seemed to float in from space. Yes, I couldn't believe it either, nor I did not expect you to believe it, but it's true. You can ring him up and discuss this with him if you want to, Salah said with apparent unconcern. Imam found herself in a dark void. That ray of hope she had followed to this stage had suddenly been extinguished. Let alone find a way out, she could not find her own being. It's up to you now, what will you do in Lahore? He cannot marry you now, nor can his family provide you any shelter. It's better for you to return home before your family finds out. Imama felt as if his voice was coming from a great distance. She looked at him blankly and muttered, "Drop me off to Lahore." You'll go to Jalal? No, I will go there. But I cannot go home anymore, she suddenly stood up. Salah looked at her with concern and took a deep breath. Or walk. Me to your gate, I'll find my way. Tell your chowkidar to let me out, she picked up her bag. Have you any idea how far the bus stand is? Can you find the way on your own in this fog and cold? When I have nothing left, then what do the cold or fog mean? Salah saw her smile wanly, eyes brimming with tears as she wiped them away with the back of her hand. He had no intention of going anywhere with her, let alone to Lahore. He was very sleepy, and he did not like this girl who stood before him. Wait, I'll come with you, he didn't know why or how these words were spoken. Imama saw him go towards his dressing room. He emerged a while later, having changed from his pajamas to jeans and a pullover. He picked up his keychain, watch and wallet from his bedside table. Coming to Imama, he put out his hand to take her bag. No, thank you, I can carry it. Let me, he said and slung it over his shoulder. They walked down in single file to the porch. Salah put her bag on the back seat and opened the front door for her. As the car approached, the chowkidar opened the gate. For them. Passing by, Salah noticed the amazement in the man's eyes when he saw the passenger in the front seat. He must certainly wonder what she was doing in the house at this hour and how she got in. Will you drop me at the bus stand? Asked Imama as the car approached the main road. Salah turned to glance at her. No. I'm taking you to Lahore. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead. End of chapter 3. Wait for the next chapter. Thank you.